Kia ora, good morning. You're hanging out with Salabion and Bex. Mental Health Awareness Week kicks off today. If you didn't know, well, now you know. It's an important week, and we're going to be celebrating every single day this week. And this year's Mental Health Awareness Week theme is 5 ways, 5 days. Maybe life has been a roller coaster lately with stress and everything overwhelming and hitting you from all angles. Well, today we'll be able to declutter some things because we've got therapists and Are You Mental podcaster. That's the name of the podcast, Are You Mental? Host Mick Andrews, who joins us this morning. Good morning, Mick. Thanks for taking time out to join us this morning, bro.
Great to be here.
Okay, straight off the bat. Sorry, bro.
No, you go.
Straight off the bat, we've been celebrating and acknowledging Mental Health Awareness Week for some time now.
Yeah.
So at the end of this week, I'm going to fast forward to the end of this week. What would success look like to you?
Wow, at the end of this week.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, as the name suggests, it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and it's about raising awareness. And actually, you know, it has been going for a while, and I think it's worth celebrating some of the wins. I think in New Zealand and Aotearoa, we are that much more aware of the fact that mental health's A, a thing, B, we all at some point in our lives struggle with it, and C, I don't know, there was never an A, B, and C before, but there is now.
Every quality thing has 3 points to it, so it's good.
We're becoming more accepting of each other when we struggle with our mental health.
So is that what you want to see at the end of this week, that people are embracing it and where everybody, regardless of their...
Well, yeah, I mean, in a dreamland at the end of this week, everyone who struggles with their mental health, and I think it's kind of almost misnamed mental health, because for me it's more emotional health, you know? It's more to do with the heart and the feelings, not just the brain.
I've heard it be called mental fitness, and I'm kind of liking that.
Yeah. I would like to see by the end of this week everyone be totally open about the times that they struggle and feel safe opening up to their whānau and their friends.
Very cool.
What draws you to this kind of field, right? So you're a therapist, you deal with people like this all the time, going through maybe more struggles than most people, the people that you'd probably tend to interact with. And then you run this podcast, Are You Mental, Season 3, where you interview people about their journey with mental health. What kind of draws you to it?
Well, I usually just get drawn into things vocationally that I'm really fascinated by. And I know that might seem like not the kind of heartfelt, caring answer, but I am really fascinated by humans. I'm really fascinated by what makes us tick. And I'm really interested in why we work well sometimes and why other times we don't feel like we're working so well and our minds are not working so well and we're not feeling the way we want to feel. And there's just endless complexity to us humans. And so the fact that there's endless complexity means there's endless chances to explore and find new things out, alongside the fact that I find a lot of purpose in this work because, you know, I know what it's like to struggle with my mental health and it's no fun. And if we can give each other a hand up when we're struggling, then that's pretty purposeful in my book.
Was that one of the reasons why you kicked this podcast off? And also what's something that's come out of your podcast, Are You Mental, that you thought, wow, didn't think that was going to happen?
Yeah, right. It's a good question. Reason I kicked it off? Yeah, definitely. I love the idea of people just knowing more about the struggles we have. And this podcast it's not so much a chatty podcast. It's quite highly edited. And every episode's about a different mental health struggle. So I just released one on ADHD. And if you go to that episode, you'll spend an hour listening and you'll know a lot more about ADHD. You'll hear 2 heartfelt stories from people who have lived that struggle and the impact it's had on their life. So next time you meet someone with ADHD, or you've got a family member or yourself, you'll have that much more empathy for who they are and much more understanding about what their lived experience is like. To your second question, even just yesterday, I got one of the guys who was in my ADHD episode, Izzy, a friend of his stepson listened to the episode and was then able to approach his stepdad and say, hey, I've been experiencing similar things. And they had this lovely conversation where they were able to open up with each other about their struggles and what that might mean and what the next steps might be. And that conversation wouldn't have happened, you know, without the podcast, which is really, I love those emails. They're awesome.
That's awesome.
I think what you're saying about the opening up and becoming more okay for people to just talk about where they're at and how they're going, I've definitely noticed that just anecdotally in my own life and with people that I know, friends and stuff like that, like much more willing these days to just talk about how they actually are, like the sort of, how are you?
Yeah.
More than just good,
Yeah.
and
Great.
that's a really good direction we want to be kind of heading in.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, and that's great to hear. And I would agree. I think, that shame that we would have felt maybe even 15 years ago around saying that we're feeling a certain way, we're feeling down. We've had a whole week of feeling really low and down, we might just hold that in and hold it to ourselves. But these days, I think it is much more acceptable to tell someone. But we've still got a long way to go.
Often when we're talking about mental health, and just to wrap things up here, Mick, we say, hey, listen, if you've got issues or if you think something's wrong, pick up a phone and talk to somebody. But somebody who's going through those issues, who's fighting against themselves, that's the last thing that they're going to do. So do we have an obligation, do we have an onus to be able to check in on those people, because the ones who are in trouble, I would say 9 times out of 10 are going to struggle to actually pick up a phone to reach out to somebody.
Yeah. Yes, I think the answer is yes.
Yep.
Like if you haven't seen a friend for a while, they're going through something. They're staying home more than they usually do. They're kind of talking in more negative terms. Maybe just physically they seem a bit kind of low vibe or hunched or something. Yeah, I think we do have a responsibility to get alongside a brother and a sister and say, how are things? How are things really? And create the space for them to tell you whatever they need to tell you.
You've been awesome this morning, brother.
Thank you.
How can people get a hold of this podcast?
Probably easiest way is just to go to aumental.com and there's or go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can find it wherever you get your podcasts.
So you're sort of midway through season 3 of this podcast.
That's right.
Do the episodes come out on a regular basis, or just sort of whenever you're ready for the next one? Or?
Some of them take longer to make than others.
Yeah.
I do spend a while on them. They're kind of every 6-ish weeks. But
around there.
Yeah.
Hit subscribe and they'll turn up for automatic.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you,
Mick.
guys. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate you coming in.
Cool.
And check in on somebody.